Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over a potential upcoming winter storm for portions of the Great Lakes and parts of the Central Plains. Some of these areas could be picking up as much as 6 or more inches of snowfall. We're going to be giving you my exclusive snowfall forecast in today's video, and we're also going to be going over some of the model guidance for the storm, including the GFS model, which would be the American model, the Canadian model, and also the European model, and we're going to be showing you what all of those models are showing for both the precipitation type and the snowfall. Also, if you want a personal forecast, leave a comment down below and I'll try and respond to you within about an hour or so of you posting it. And also, please leave a like on the video and subscribe with notifications turned on. It really helps the channel, and we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers within a fairly short amount of time. So hopefully within the next few days, hopefully within the next about 5 days or so, we can get to 4,000 subscribers. We're very close, so hopefully you guys can help me edge over the 4,000 line. So let's get right into it here with your current National Weather Service page. We already see some winter weather advisories actually going up for the storm. That would be for portions of Nebraska and also for portions of New Mexico and Colorado. That's all associated with this storm. The winter weather advisories out in Nevada, that's actually from a different storm that's going to be coming behind this system, tracking through the southern states and then kind of staying further to the south. Some models have been wanting it to go up the coast and bring some sort of snowstorm. That's a little bit too early for us to speculate on that, but that is from another system. We have air quality alerts further to the north of those winter weather advisories, wind advisories in effect for portions of southern California, and some high wind warnings in effect for southwestern Texas. Other than that, there's not a lot going on. Don't be surprised if you do actually see some winter weather advisories go up for this area over portions of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. So here is what the GFS model is showing for the storm, and let's zoom in on the north central United States. We see a low pressure down in Oklahoma and in Texas, and that would be spreading some rain showers over portions of the southern plains. As the system moves through, you start to see some more snow breaking out on that western end, and then the system tries to pull away to the north. This would be by tomorrow morning, and then here would be by right around 12 p.m. tomorrow, and we're looking at, and this would be in central time, we're looking at some potentially convective activity moving through portions of Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, where you see those little spots of yellow and orange pop up. That's where you could see a few clusters of thunderstorms pop up. It won't be anything major, but definitely some heavy downpours on that southern side are possible. We're looking at a thin line of snowfall that is going to be right around maybe 20 to 40 or maybe even 50 miles wide, but it's going to be a very narrow band of snowfall, and that's definitely something that's going to lower some of your snow totals. Also, just a disclaimer, if you do live right along that coastal area, right along the Great Lakes from eastern Wisconsin down through northeastern Illinois, your amounts will probably be a little bit lower. You're going to have to go a little bit inland to actually get into some of those higher snowfall totals, and that's just because of how very warm those Great Lakes are for this time of year. So this would be by 6 p.m. tonight or tomorrow night, and then here would be by midnight on Friday, getting into Saturday, and we're looking at some of that snowfall still moving through portions of Nebraska and Iowa, but the GFS definitely has a very warm outlook on this, and then the snow really starts to move into portions of Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa as we get to Saturday right around 6 a.m. Here's by 12 a.m., and you can see again right along that shoreline of the Great Lakes and of Lake Michigan, we're looking at potentially some mixing there, so that's definitely something you want to pay attention to. Also for northern Michigan, that's where you're looking at some of that heavier snowfall that may be a little bit lake enhanced as well. Now here to be by Saturday right around 6 p.m. and then here would be by 12 a.m. on Sunday, and we're looking at this system really pulling away to the east. Now here's what the Canadian model is showing for this same storm. Now this would be by tonight right around This would be actually tomorrow morning, right around 12 a.m. And we're looking at that low pressure down here in portions of Kansas and Oklahoma. We're dealing with some precipitation out further to the east of there. Now, what you're going to notice is that the Canadian model has a much wider band of snowfall. So this might be what this is just an example of what the Canadian model snowfall area would look like. But for example, here's what the GFS's snowfall line looked like. It was much thinner. So the Canadian model definitely brings the system a lot further to the south, and it also brings a lot more snowfall just because that big area of snowfall is much wider. Now, here to be by Friday morning, so this would be by tomorrow morning right around 6 a.m. Here's by 12 p.m., and we're looking at some of that snowfall popping up for Nebraska and Iowa. And then that system shifts slightly more to the east. It will be fairly windy as well. You might have a couple gusts to 30 or 35 miles per hour. And this would be by Friday right around 6 p.m. or so. Here would be by 12 a.m. On Saturday actually, and we're looking at more of that snowfall popping up for portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and then trying to get into parts of Wisconsin and Michigan by this point. And what I was talking about with that width of this snowfall band, you can see how it's much wider of a system, and it's actually showing a snowfall for a much wider area than what the GFS was showing. That GFS model was a very thin line on that northern precipice of the storm showing some snowfall. The Canadian model is definitely much more widespread with that snow. Now here would be by 6 a.m. Here's by 12 p.m. and we're looking at that system moving into portions of southern Michigan and some snowfall on that northern end of the system still. And then on the backside, that's where areas like northern Illinois, northern Missouri, and potentially into central Illinois, southern Iowa, that area might get into some of that snowfall because that cold air will be rushing in on that backside. Maybe you could see a couple of rain and snow mixed showers for portions of Saturday and Saturday evening especially. Now, here's what the European model is showing for the same exact storm, and let's focus in on the Midwest first, and then we'll move over to the Great Lakes view of this storm. Now, we're dealing with some scattered showers out through portions of the Rockies ahead of the storm, so let's see what the European model wants to do with this system. Now, we're looking at the storm pulling up into portions of Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, and then here would be by Friday right around 12 p.m. We're looking at some snowfall popping up for portions of Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, and it's a fairly thin line, kind of like what the GFS was showing. Let's move over to the Great Lakes view of this, and you're starting to see some mixing pop up for portions of Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, and this would be for Friday night. Here would be by Saturday morning, right around 12 a.m. Here's by 6 a.m., and you can see that area of snowfall does widen, so you can, this is the previous frame, here is the next frame, so you can see that area does actually widen a little bit. That snow will most likely get a little bit more widespread as we get into the morning hours of Saturday. Here would be by 12 p.m. and potentially some heavier bands, especially right along that rain-snow transition line. So this would be by Saturday right around 12 p.m. Here's by 6 p.m. and that area of heavy snow is now pulling away into northern Michigan and the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, Minnesota. You guys are actually going to miss this storm mainly because you're going to be a little bit too far to the north to get this storm. So for my viewers over those regions, you guys are probably going to miss most of the snow from this event. Here would be by Sunday morning, and then that system really pulls away into southern Canada. So here's what the European model is showing for snowfall. We'll focus in on the Midwest, and then we'll look at the Great Lakes view of this. And I think these amounts are going to be much lower than what most of the models are showing. These models are not taking into account that the atmosphere in front of the system is actually going to be quite warm, so it is going to take a couple of hours of consistent heavy snowfall to actually lower that ground temperature to the point where you can see accumulating snow. So already knock off maybe 3 inches off of what you're seeing on the screen, and maybe even more in some of those locations. We're dealing with a band of snow that pops up from Nebraska through Kansas into Missouri and into Iowa. Let's see what the Great Lakes view of this shows. We see an area of snowfall for portions of southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northern Michigan, in the southwest to northeast orientation there. So we are dealing with some some potentially pretty heavy snowfall. Now, I don't think you're going to see this much snowfall. That's mainly because, again, you are going to be seeing some mixing issues. You're going to see a start as rain for many areas, and then potentially on the back end see some snowfall. So in order to prepare your ground to see any snowfall, really, you're going to need, again, a couple of hours of heavy, consistent snowfall that will cool down your ground temperature from maybe 36 to start at the 36 degrees at the start of the storm to maybe 32 degrees during the middle of the storm, when you can maybe get some accumulation. So it is going to take a while, and that's why I think these models are only taken into account if everything were to stick. If all that snow were to stick, how much would you see? That's not going to be the case, and you're going to see probably much lower accumulations than what this is showing. Now, here's what the GFS is showing, and I actually think you'll get a little bit more snowfall than this. The GFS is definitely on the much lower end of this, but it does crank up those amounts as you get into northern Michigan. Those areas might get between 6 and maybe 9 inches of snowfall in some areas. Now, here's what the Canadian model is showing for this, and then we'll get into my forecast. We're looking at, I would actually agree with the Canadian model quite a lot, except I don't think these amounts right here are going to be as high as what it's showing. But overall, I think the area of where it's showing that snowfall is actually quite correct, and I do actually agree with this probably more than most of the models, but I do think those amounts are still a little bit too high on this model. Now, here's my snowfall forecast. This is going from tomorrow all the way until the 13th of December, which would be, I believe, Sunday. So we're looking at under an inch of snowfall for portions of really that little band through portions of Nebraska, Iowa, into Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. That's where you might look at maybe a dusting, maybe just some flakes. So this is where you might get some snowfall from the system, although I don't think it'll be too much in this area alone. Now, 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. We see one area closer to the Rockies, the other area on the other side of Nebraska and into Iowa, in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, into northern Michigan. 1 to 3 inches of snowfall in many of these areas, and this is what I think will actually accumulate. Most of this will actually stick fairly well on those grassy surfaces, but you might have a little bit harder of a time sticking on some of those roadways. Here would be that 3 to 6 inch area, and you can see for interior northern Michigan, so away from the coastal areas, that's where you're looking at 3 to 6 inches, so away from Lake Huron and away from some of the Great Lakes there, you're looking at some of that heavier, more of that snowfall there. And then also for another area in southern and south central Wisconsin, north central Illinois, through portions of Iowa and Nebraska, you're looking at 3 to 6 inches as well. And I think for those areas on the other side of the Great Lakes, on that western end of the Great Lakes, I think it'll be probably closer to 3 or 4 inches, but potentially some portions of southern Iowa could get as much as 5 or 6. Now, here's that 6 to 12 inch area, and it's a thin little area for portions of interior and northern Michigan. This is where I think it'll probably be closer to 8 inches at the maximum. A couple areas might get closer to 9 or 10, but generally this is not going to be a big, massive snowstorm. We're not seeing really all the ingredients there, although I do think it is definitely going to be a sizable event for this weekend. So if you're going to be out on those roads, definitely take precautions. Now, that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications. If you have any questions or you want a personal forecast, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.